This is what I suggest. I suggest that we select a cake first.
Okay.
You know, because the cake very often determines what kind of wedding that you end up having. So let's just choose a cake, okay? So this is a very popular cake with many of the fashionable weddings, you know? And this, I just don't do anymore. And this is fabulous.
Oh, that is incredible. Annie, that's just like the one we saw in the magazine.
Do you like it, Dad?
Well, what is that? Is that dollars? $1,200?
Believe me, Master Banks, this is a very reasonable price for a cake of this magnitude.
A cake, Franck, is made of flour and water. My first car didn't cost $1,200.
Welcome to the 90s, Mr. Pong.
Cakes, cabarets, couples cocktails, outfit changes, ordained friends, open bars, sparklers, slurred speeches, slinky dresses. Many of these have come to be the expectations of modern-day American weddings. How have wedding customs changed over time and why? Today, we will be discussing that day that all girls dream about and that all boys tell their girls that they dream about too. I'm Julie Hartman, and this is Timeless. Hey everyone, welcome to Timeless. I hope that you're having a great week. Just a reminder to hit the subscribe button down below so that you can stay notified every time I post a Julie Noted news video or a Timeless episode. And also be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Julie R. Hartman. Didn't you love that Father of the Bride clip? Honestly, that movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. Apparently there's a new one that came out in recent years. But I think the OG 90s one with Martin Short, and who's the guy? I should know the main actor. Steve, who? Martin? I knew that. And Steve Martin, that is just spectacular. So today we are talking about weddings, shocker. And what inspired me to talk about weddings, it was actually a few things. First, did you all see Sophia Richie, the daughter of Lionel Richie, recently got married to this guy, Elliot Grange, I think his name is, and they were in the south of France, and she had this beautiful, tasteful wedding gown, and it was a religious Jewish ceremony. That was all over Vogue and all over the internet. Sophia Richie is being called the new it girl, and there was something so refreshing to me about looking at that wedding. Yes, it was incredibly ostentatious. It was, incredibly expensive. They were in this fancy hotel in the south of France, and they had all the bells and whistles that you would expect of Lionel Richie's daughter. But I actually thought that it was, for lack of a better term, timeless and really tasteful in a way that we don't always see with celebrity weddings. Compare Sophia Richie's wedding dress to Kourtney Kardashian Barker's, if we can even call that a wedding dress. It was so short and very breasty. So I liked that Sophia Richie did that, and I wanted to do an episode on the timelessness of good weddings and how weddings have changed so much from how they originally used to be. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk to you about what weddings used to be about, and then the various customs that have evolved. And you will see that it's very clear why they have evolved. So to start, let's talk about the significance of a wedding itself. A lot of people who get married, and I'm not even necessarily throwing shade at them, it's kind of a referendum on our society, our culture, and our values. A lot of people who get married kind of don't even know what a wedding is about. The historical origins, the sacred significance of that matrimony. And that's how I would define a marriage, a wedding. It's a sacred transformation of a relationship. Fundamentally, it was seen as a union before God. If you look at Genesis, I think in like chapter 3 or 4 of Genesis, really early on in the first book of the Bible, God says, quote, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." Also in Genesis, it is described that Eve, a woman, was made from the rib of Adam, the rib of a man. So literally it is seen when you get married, you are becoming one flesh, one union again. So there was this godly, sacred significance. It's a union before God. And also, this is really kind of ironic because a lot of feminists nowadays say that marriage is oppressive to women, it confines women, and it's this old, antiquated tradition. Marriage was actually designed in large part to protect women. Think about if you have kids. It served as a protection for women to have kids inside of marriage because there was this built-in legal responsibility of a man to take care of those children alongside the woman. It made it much harder for a man to run off away from his children if he is bound by that legal matrimony. It also is a commitment that prevents men from cheating. I mean, certainly it's not a 100% effective preventer of men's infidelity or women's infidelity for that matter, as we see nowadays. But in almost every way possible, it was designed to afford a sense of commitment and protection to a woman. And way back in the olden days, you had to live apart before you got married. Most people would be frowned upon by society if they lived with their future husband before marriage. A lot of people, most people, waited to have intercourse until marriage. There was this idea that a man had to earn a woman. He had to go out and woo her and earn her respect and her admiration. And then only once he made that commitment to her and sealed the deal and actually did it, could he get some of the benefits that are now just doled out very superfluously and constantly in society. And even a woman taking a man's last name, that is seen as a kind of antiquated, oppressive to women tradition. Well, the reason why you do that, according to old times or old understandings of marriage, is that you impart to the man that you are honoring him, and it gives the man a responsibility. This woman has committed her life to me. She has taken my name, and I should honor her honoring me. I should protect her and really, view that as something to be proud of, that this woman has chosen me and I have earned her. The white dress, people just think that it was a random color that you just happened to associate with weddings. It symbolized this purity. Mostly it also symbolized chastity and not having intercourse before marriage. But it symbolized that the woman was coming to you in a pure state, that her intentions were pure, and you were going to build this lovely, pure life together. Actually, the white dress really became legitimized in the year 1840 with the marriage of Queen Victoria of Britain. Before that, it actually was pretty customary for brides not to wear white. Some brides wore a bunch of different colors, and they were replete with a lot of jewels, and it was kind of a symbol of the bride's wealth. But Queen Victoria in 1840 apparently had this beautiful white wedding dress, and so that really caught on in addition to the idea of white symbolizing purity in the mid-1800s. The father giving his daughter away to a man was also kind of a traditional representation of protection of women. Far from being this horrible, bigoted, patriarchal thing, it actually was this symbolic transference of protection. The father is handing off his daughter to her future husband saying, I have looked out for her. I have financially provided for her. I have protected her up until this point. And now I am coming up to you and I am entrusting you with that responsibility. Bridesmaids also had an interesting origin in a way that people just don't know about at all today. First of all, let's look at the word bridesmaids. They are bridesmaids. They are supposed to help and support the bride throughout her wedding process. Now, bridesmaids are just people you get drunk with on your wedding day. People who sit in the same room with you a few hours before you get married and watch you get your hair and makeup done and hand you a glass of champagne to calm your nerves. But bridesmaids used to really even help with the planning, help with the wedding dress selection, talk the marriage through with the bride. The matron of honor was actually supposed to be a woman who was already married that the bride would choose as a kind of role model. someone that she hoped to emulate as a bride. That's just obviously very different from what we have today. Also, bridesmaids dated back to Roman times when Roman law required that at least 10 witnesses must be present at a wedding. Bridesmaids and groomsmen, for that matter, also served as protection for the bride and the groom. Back in Roman times, it used to be customary that bridesmaids would dress identically to the bride. They would wear white too, in the same cut and fabric as the bride's dress, and groomsmen would dress like a groom. You know why? Because in those days, weddings often were characterized by the bride's family handing over a dowry or jewelry or sums of money to the groom's family. It was a financial interaction as much as a sacred transformation of a relationship. So it was not uncommon for looters and thieves and bandits to show up to weddings knowing that a pile of cash would be there. And so the bridesmaids and the groomsmen were supposed to dress exactly like the bride and the groom to confuse the thieves. So if you saw a thief walking in, you would just scramble, and the thief, according to our understanding of the history, would be disoriented and not know which one to target. So that's a little primer on the history of weddings. And you can see that every function, whether it's the white dress, whether it's the father giving away the daughter, whether it's the bridesmaids and the groomsmen, had a traditional sacred meaning packed into it. Now, weddings are a party. And I'm not necessarily saying that insultingly. I have had so much fun at the weddings that I've been to. I mean, nowadays, weddings are kind of like the event of the decade because they have so transformed. But again, some of the transformations reveal a lot about how the understanding of a wedding itself has changed. Because a lot of the times in modern day America, when people are at the point that they're getting married, there actually isn't that much of a transformation in their relationship. For instance, the vast majority, nearly all Americans now, have intercourse before marriage. According to the Guttmacher Institute, by age 44, 99% of respondents said that they had had intercourse, and 95% of those said that they had done so before marriage. Additionally, people are living together before they get married. Among American adults aged 18 to 44, 59% have lived with an unmarried partner at some point in their lives, whereas only 50% have been married. So in that adult age range, there are more people that have just lived with a spouse than have actually made the commitment to get married. That's pretty amazing. And that was certainly not the case 50 or 100 years ago. Some people even have kids before marriage. Right now, about 40% of births in the United States occur out of wedlock. That is up from 28% in 1990 and up from about 10% in 1960. Some people even get married before they get married. I have been to a lot of weddings where the couple actually got legally married in court a few days before, and then a few days later, they have the ceremony where the bride puts on the dress, the father / mother / whoever walks them down the aisle, and they kind of like get married again, but this time in front of all these people and with all of these bells and whistles. So you see here, again, not necessarily an insult, just a plain giving of facts, that weddings are really no longer a transformative thing. There's not much that changes the day before you get married versus the day after you get married. So that's why a lot of the religious or spiritual or traditional elements of the ceremony, are going down, whereas the party is going up. If you look, by the way, and this will be a theme in the next few minutes that I will be conveying to you, if you look at the amount of money spent on American weddings today, it is staggering, okay? According to the Knot.com, the average amount of money that couples or their parents spent on a wedding ceremony and reception in 2022 was $30,000. That is the national average. That is crazy. That is a $2,000 increase from 2021's national average. So you just see over time, it's just becoming more in vogue to have these huge, big parties and celebrations. Even if you look at some of the poorest states in the union, it is just unbelievable, the average amount of money that the people spend on their weddings. The poorest state right now in the union is Mississippi. And guess for a moment at home what the average cost of a wedding is in Mississippi. 3, 2, 1. It's $28,000. Think about that. That is unbelievable. Sean, I'm sorry to bother you, my dear. Will you look up the average income of citizens in Mississippi? It is just crazy that the average wedding cost is $28,000. That encompasses people who get married in the courthouse. That encompasses people who have these big parties, but that is the average. Louisiana is the second poorest state in the United States, and their average cost of wedding is $31,000. California is $37,000. Massachusetts is one of the highest, if not the highest, with an average of $46,000. New Jersey, $51,000. People don't even make close to this in annual income. So we see the social pressure to throw a great big bash for all of your family and friends. So I never advertise a product that I do not use myself, and I use MyPillow all day, literally. I walk into this studio wearing my slippers, and then at night I go home and sleep on my pillows. So I want to encourage you all to get deep discounts using the promo code Hartman. You can get a queen size MyPillow for $19.98. A regular price for a queen size is $69.98. So you see there's a huge discount there. And a king size MyPillow is $10 more than that. If you go to mypillow.com and click on the radio and podcast square and use the promo code Hartman, my last name, Hartman, you can get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. Again, the queen size MyPillow is $19.98. You can also call 1-800-566-6745. That's 1-800-566-6745 and use the promo code Hartman to get deep discounts on all of their great products. Okay, so what are parts of weddings right now that are deemed too traditional? These are overall trends. Of course, there are still people who do things the traditional way, but let's go through some of the things that have changed. First, short engagements. When you were waiting to have intercourse and move in together until you got married, when you got engaged, you wanted the shortest possible amount of time from when you got engaged to when you got married, because you wanted all of those bells and whistles. Now that people are having intercourse, living together, even having kids together before marriage, they get engaged and they have these super long engagements. According to the the average length of an American couple's engagement in 2021 was 16 months. So a year and a third. Wow. Pastors, priests, and rabbis are also seen as too traditional to have as officiants in American weddings. Now we see all of these sites where you can get ordained are proliferating. I mean, you can sit at your computer and in 15 to 20 minutes, you can have the legal license to officiate a wedding. So we are seeing people who are recruiting friends, family members, or just random internet ordained people to officiate their weddings. Around 1/5 of heterosexual marriages in 2018 were religious ceremonies. This compares to 84% of all marriages in 1900 and 50% of all marriages in 1980. Again, these changes make sense because it is no longer viewed as a sacred commitment before God. We see in many ways secularism has infiltrated into American modern life, not just with regard to marriage, but with regard to a lot of other attitudes and beliefs. So people just think it's old to recruit a religious leader. Another thing that is deemed too traditional now is a bridal party who matches. Only 22% of weddings have their bridesmaids and groomsmen match. Well, I guess right now there's fewer dowries that are being transmitted from a wife's parents to the groom or the groom's parents. So maybe there isn't as much of a need to have the bridesmaids look similar to the bride and the groomsmen look similar to the groom. But there used to be a kind of uniformity rooted in tradition, a simplicity that was characterized by the bridal party. And now we see that brides are telling their bridesmaids, I want you to have this color, but whatever cut of dress you want, you can have. So that's a new trend. The same number of bridesmaids and groomsmen has also changed. Some people will have 4 and 5. Honestly, when I go to weddings and I see an uneven number, my OCD goes on edge. I'm like, there needs to be one other person. Someone needs to put on a bridesmaid's dress and even this out. But doesn't seem to be something that a lot of brides and grooms are thinking about. Classy and conservative attire is also on the outs. Frankly, both for the bride and for the bridesmaids. If you Google sexy bridesmaids dresses, you will encounter a million sites that give you all of these options. Yes, we have pictures here. I've asked my producers to pull some photos of these sexy bridesmaids dresses. A lot of bridesmaids use their friend's wedding or their sister's wedding as an opportunity for them to get a man. So it's increasingly more of a thing that bridesmaids will want to show off their stuff, if you will. Sexy bridal gowns are also now super in vogue. Again, just an internet search and you will find all of these things pop up. It used to be the case that brides would wear conservative dresses that would cover themselves up because it was kind of the last time that their husband would see them in that way. And it was also supposed to be a mechanism of respect for the husband. Only you get to know and see my body. I'm not going to show it off to these other men who are present. So that, for better or for worse, has changed. The white dress has also changed. I told you that in earlier times it was common for women to wear different colored dresses, mostly to show off their wealth and the different kind of cloth and material that their families could provide to them. Well, it's sort of making a comeback. There was a recent New York Times article that talked about this phenomena, and they cited a study by Brides and Investopedia, which surveyed about 1,000 people who were planning to wed, and they found that 28% of participants wanted to ditch the white gown and a classic suit for an atypical alternative. So most brides, makes sense, are wearing still white dresses, but there is this ever-increasing trend of moving to different colors. Another study published by Etsy examined site data from September to November of 2021 and compared that with site data from September to November of 2020. And they found that over that same month, year-to-year period, there was a 223% jump in the searches for colored wedding items, including gowns, suits, veils, and centerpieces. I'll read you another stat. According to Heather McReynolds, the vice president of David's Bridal, quote, 1 out of 4 brides is choosing a gown in champagne or other non-white but neutral hues such as pink, blush, or cashmere. Colorful gowns actually came to make up about 10% of David's bridal collection in recent years, which is about a 30% increase from 2019. And then finally, Lindsay Kent, who is a wedding planner and founder of the Pop-Up Chapel in Toronto, said, quote, with cohabitation even more common than marriage today, the idea of a white wedding gown symbolizing purity is an outdated notion. Makes sense. And then finally, another part of weddings that is seen as too outdated, antiquated, perhaps even bigoted today is the father walking their daughter or son, if it is a male homosexual marriage, to give that child away. We see that now both parents, mother and father, are doing it. Even sometimes there are weddings where your friend or your uncle or some other trusted relative in your life is doing that. So that's what's been done away with. Not entirely, but increasingly these are the trends that are going by the wayside. What are the new norms? What is replacing these old antiquated traditions? Well, the biggest one, as I told you with reading aloud the average wedding cost, is that there is now this need and expectation for a big, expensive wedding. all of the bells and whistles. You know, it's funny because a lot of people will say that weddings in the past were a social spectacle. They would kind of decry them as this way for families to tout their wealth or to tout the beauty of their daughter or the match, the greatness of the match. That is no different from today. I mean, think about it. So many weddings today are about the parents of the bride and the groom. It's kind of like a coming out party for them to show off to their friends, their children. So it's really kind of inconsistent to decry old weddings as these social institutions. And it's basically the same thing today. In addition to the high wedding costs, we also see that bachelorette and bachelor trips are inordinately expensive. More than half of bachelor and bachelorette parties are more than 2 days. Over 50% of them are over 2 days. That's crazy. 50% of attendees spend $300 or more, and 40% spend $1,000 or more. And it is very customary for your bridesmaids or groomsmen to have to foot the cost of the bachelor or bachelorette party. So as much of an honor as it is to be asked to be in a wedding, sometimes people just want to avoid it because there's this expectation that you will undertake this financial burden, including the bachelorette and bachelor trip. People now have these huge wedding parties. That's a new norm. And the thing is, can they really all be your friends? You see these brides who have like 12 bridesmaids, and it may be fun getting ready with all of them before, but there's no way you're that close to that many people. Also extremely expensive to be a bridesmaid. The average cost is between $1,200 and $1,800, and the average cost of a groomsman is $450. Gosh. It is so much easier in so many ways to be a man. And those bridesmaids and groomsmen are also expected in many cases to pay for travel costs and their dresses or suits. As I said, another new norm is that there's a long engagement. The average right now is 16 months. A new norm, obviously, moving in together, having intercourse before marriage. Even some brides and grooms spend the night before the wedding together. That used to be something you obviously didn't do, and now people are saying, well, what's the point? So there's this kind of loss of purity in this sacred idea of unity. And then, now we're going to go on to all of these wedding spectacles that characterize these super expensive weddings. It is just really, they've just become trying to show how rich or creative you can be. There are actually these new businesses which do social media consulting for weddings. It's not just enough anymore to have a videographer that takes footage of your wedding. There are people who hire others to be in charge of TikTok, to hold a phone and like come up with these social media posts. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. I'm reading from Anastasia Stevenson, who's a fashion designer and wedding planner who lives between Los Angeles and Savannah, Georgia. She said, quote, "This generation of brides is very concerned about the online visibility of their weddings. They need to do something different to stand out from the hundreds of thousands of other posts by brides on TikTok and Instagram." So it's a competition. Who can have the coolest, most creative wedding? I found this site on brides.com, and it is this article of 75 suggestions of how to wow your guests at a wedding. Even look at that title, How to Wow Your Guests at a Wedding. The focus is impressing other people, not making the most meaningful sacred day for you and your partner. And as I was reading through this list of 75, I could tell you, I think I have seen at least 60 of them at weddings that I've been to. All of these are becoming trends. First, cocktail napkins that are monogrammed or have fun facts about the bride and the groom. 40% of brides and grooms now want signature cocktails. This is up from 23% who wanted them in 2017. This is according to theknot.com. People also have these wedding timelines or wedding itineraries where they will spend copious amounts of money for these printouts, which have these little drawings of the bride and the groom and where they met, or the certain locations that you should go to when you are in X city for that person's wedding. There is a huge business for wedding websites where, I mean, I've gotten invitations before. You go to the website, there's a username, password, you log in, you see a million photos of the couple. There's a bar on it that says how the couple met, or our story, you know, our wedding, our registry. It's like a production. It's literally like opening a business, your wedding day and your matrimony. Let's go to some other ones. Oh, there are cookies now. I've seen this at so many weddings with the couple's face superimposed on the cookies, or a place where the couples met. People are even doing things called a ring warming ceremony, where before the wedding, as people are assuming their seats, they pass around the rings, and they want each attendee to hold the rings in their hands and make them warm. And it's this idea that all of these people who love and care about you have given a good send-off to your rings. Again, just super extra. How about choreographed dance routines? It's not just enough anymore to have a first dance. You gotta get dance lessons months before your wedding and do this highly thought out, anticipated routine to wow and impress your guests and show what a deep, loving, fun couple you are, that you would do this together. Also, one of the 75 here on brides.com, and this has become so common, is that you have to have a unique send-off. A lot of people do this with sparklers, and it just kind of becomes a photo op instead of an actual send-off as the bride and groom leave their wedding and go on to be a married couple. There was even a picture of a bride and a groom in a boat on this website, where people are literally choosing their locations to be on a beach so that they can get in a boat after, and there will be these photos of them, and there will be fireworks overhead. It's all nowadays about making an impression and about a spectacle. And then the final thing I'll point out is these highly, highly edited wedding videos. Again, it's not just enough to have a videographer. It's not even enough to have a videographer plus a social media manager. You have to edit these videos and make it so like emotional. You see these brides and grooms that send each other or write each other letters, and they open those letters before they get married to that person. And think about that. That's a very intimate thing to do with your partner. And it actually is a lovely idea. But now you have these wedding videographers who take videos of the bride opening the letter from the groom and reading it, and the tears streaming down, and they're touching their heart. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like a movie. Your wedding video shouldn't be a movie. Your wedding video should be a video of this great day. If you are thinking about what your wedding video is going to look like, you're probably not in the moment with your spouse. And then on a final note, I want to mention some weird things that people are doing that are just so different, and I think a little tacky, if I do say so myself. There are now registries that people have where they ask you to donate funds to your honeymoon, plane tickets or destination that you may go to. I don't know. To me, it just seems a little tacky. It's one thing to have a registry where you want to get some items that are useful to you, but to go like for the honeymoon, I don't know. I feel like your husband should pay for your honeymoon, or maybe it should be a gift from your parents or your grandparents. But to have everyday guests do that, it's a little weird. By the way, I'd like to pause and say that to all the people who are going to comment saying that I am passing judgment and that I'm so wrong, I would like to alert you to a meme from Tamra Judge of The Real Housewives of Orange County. You're welcome to disagree with it. I'm just telling you how I feel. There are also other weird things on wedding registries nowadays, like sheets and towels. I don't know, just a little strange. Some things you should buy on your own. To close, because we started this episode with a hilarious video from my favorite movie, Father of the Bride, I'd like to end with some fun advice that I saw recently from Tucker Carlson with regard to marriage. Let's listen.
Kids, I mean, get married when you're too young, have more kids than you can afford, take a job you're not qualified for, live boldly, stop getting high, Stop doing anything that blurs your vision or makes time go faster. You're going to die before you know it. Don't waste a second. That's the sin, is living thoughtlessly and wasting time. It's the one thing you can't get back. I've wasted a lot of money in my life. Oh my gosh. I don't care. I don't regret any of it. But any time that I wasted is really bitter for me because it's finite.
Thanks everyone for being here. I hope that you enjoyed that episode. And you know, as I said, this is my opinion, but I'd also love to hear your opinions about this matter, especially if you are getting married or have already gotten married. Take care, everyone. I'll see you soon.